Picture this. You're swimming in warm, shallow water. The sun fractures through the surface in pale blue columns. Somewhere beneath you, maybe 100 feet down, maybe less, a shadow passes. Not the shadow of a boat, not the shadow of a whale. A shadow 40 feet long, longer than a school bus, longer than most humpback whales, moving with the lazy, arcing confidence of something that has never known fear. Otodus megalodon, the largest predatory shark that ever lived. For nearly 20 million years, it ruled the oceans. Its teeth, some as long as your hand, could bite through bone with 40,000 pounds of force, enough to crush a car, enough to shear through the ribs of a whale in a single snap. And then, about 3.6 million years ago, it vanished. Not slowly, not gradually. It disappeared from the fossil record almost all at once. But here's the question no one asks. If Megalodon were still alive today, could it survive? Not did it go extinct, we know it did. But could it live now? Could this apex predator, this 50-ton nightmare, exist in the modern ocean? The answer is more disturbing than you think, because it's not just no. It's the ocean would kill it. Let's start with what we know. Megalodon wasn't just a big shark. It was a thermally expensive animal, meaning it needed an enormous amount of energy just to stay alive. Sharks are cold-blooded, but Megalodon was likely partially warm-blooded, a trait called regional endothermy. Like modern great whites, it could heat its muscles and organs above the surrounding water temperature. This gave it explosive speed, power, the ability to hunt in cooler waters, but it came at a cost. To maintain that heat, Megalodon needed to eat, constantly. One study estimates it required 2,500 pounds of food per day just to sustain its metabolism. That's not a meal, that's a conveyor belt of whales. And Megalodon had the perfect menu. The Miocene and Pliocene epochs were full of slow-moving baleen whales, humpbacks, right whales, early ancestors of blue whales, fatty, massive, predictable. Megalodon didn't chase fast prey, it ambushed giants. Fossil evidence shows bite marks on whale ribs, vertebrae, flippers, clean surgical strikes to immobilize. Then it fed. For millions of years, this worked. But then the world changed. About 5 million years ago, something called the Messinian salinity crisis began. The Mediterranean Sea, one of Megalodon's key nursery habitats, began to dry up. Tectonic shifts closed the Strait of Gibraltar. Over the course of a few 100,000 years, the entire sea evaporated and refilled multiple times. Shallow, warm coastal waters, where young megalodons grew, vanished. But that was just the start. Around 3.5 million years ago, the Isthmus of Panama fully closed. North and South America collided. The Atlantic and Pacific were cut off from each other. Ocean currents shifted. The Gulf Stream strengthened. Polar waters grew colder. Tropical zones shrank. And then, the ice age began. Not just one ice age, a cycle of them. Glaciation and melting over and over every 40,000 to 100,000 years. Sea levels dropped by hundreds of feet. Coastlines retracted. The nurseries disappeared. And here's the killer. The whales adapted. Baleen whales didn't go extinct. They got faster. They migrated farther. They began feeding in the newly enriched polar waters, gorging on krill blooms near the ice, then traveling thousands of miles to breed in warm lagoons. Megalodon couldn't follow them. It was too big, too slow, too metabolically expensive to cross entire oceans chasing food that was no longer sitting still. And so, somewhere between 3.6 and 2.6 million years ago, the last Megalodon starved. But here's the twist. Even if one survived, the modern ocean would finish the job. Let's imagine, for a moment, that a breeding population of Megalodon somehow survived in a hidden trench, a deep, warm pocket of the ocean where they've been living undetected for millions of years. And let's say they emerge today. What happens? First, they can't find enough food. Modern baleen whales are faster, more migratory, and more socially complex than their ancient ancestors. Humpbacks breach. Orcas hunt in packs. Blue whales dive to depths Megalodon couldn't reach without suffering pressure damage to its cartilage skeleton. And then there's this, orcas. Orcas didn't exist during Megalodon's reign, not in their current form. Modern orcas are cooperative apex predators with learned hunting techniques passed down through generations. They kill great white sharks by flipping them upside down to induce tonic immobility, then bite out their livers. A megalodon would be bigger, but also slower, less maneuverable, and alone. An orcapod would treat it like a piñata. But let's say it survives the orcas. Let's say it finds a whale carcass and feeds. Now it faces the second problem. The ocean is too cold. The average temperature of the global ocean has dropped since the Pliocene. Megalodon was adapted to warm, shallow seas. Modern oceans are colder, deeper, and more stratified. To stay warm, Megalodon would need to stay near the surface in tropical zones, but that's where human activity is densest. Shipping lanes, fishing nets, sonar, and here's the part no one talks about. The ocean is running out of oxygen. Since 1960, the ocean has lost approximately 2% of its dissolved oxygen. It doesn't sound like much, but for a massive warm-blooded predator with a high metabolic rate, it's catastrophic. Megalodon would need to breathe more, swim faster through the water to force oxygenated seawater over its gills. But swimming faster burns more energy, which means it needs to eat more, which means it needs to hunt more. But the prey is faster, the water is colder, the oxygen is lower. It's a death spiral, and then there's plastic. Microplastics now exist in every layer of the ocean. Whales consume them. Filter feeders consume them. Apex predators accumulate them. A modern megalodon would be swimming through a toxic soup of synthetic polymers, heavy metals, and endocrine disruptors. Its liver, just like a great white's, would concentrate these toxins. Its reproductive system would fail. Its immune system would collapse. And finally, there's this. We would hunt it. Not intentionally, maybe, but Megalodon would be a bycatch casualty, a gillnet victim, H1 strike statistic. Or worse, we'd target it. Because if Megalodon were real, it would be worth millions. Every tooth, every vertebra, every drop of DNA. It would be the most valuable animal on Earth. And humans are very, very good at making valuable animals extinct. So here's the truth. Megalodon didn't just go extinct because the world changed. It went extinct because it couldn't change with it. Evolution isn't about being the strongest. It's about being the most adaptable. And Megalodon was a specialist. A creature so perfectly tuned to one environment, one climate, one prey type, one ocean, that when that world vanished, it had nowhere to go. The ocean didn't abandon Megalodon. Megalodon was abandoned by time. And the modern ocean, our ocean, is not the one it knew. It's colder, faster, emptier in some places, poisoned in others. The great whales that remain are shadows of the slow giants Megalodon once hunted. The orcas are smarter, the water is harder to breathe, and we are everywhere. If Megalodon returned tomorrow, it wouldn't be a king. It would be a refugee, a relic struggling to survive in a world that no longer has room for 50-ton ghosts. But maybe that's the real lesson, because we live in that same ocean now, and we're changing it faster than anything since the Ice Age. The question isn't whether Megalodon could survive today. The question is, what happens when we can't?